Hi there, this is Nick Dutch. Hope everybody has had a wonderful Christmas season of festivity and so on and so forth, and are looking forward to a great and wonderful New Year's Eve, stroke New Year's Day, stroke New Year. Now, got a couple of comments in the various comment sections on my videos, and I just want to go into mentioning a few of these things, little by little, so you get an understanding as to where I'm coming from. Yes, this is me going back to like old school commenting upon comments kind of thing. Uh, this one says here, so here's food for thought. What if you summon a demon? The word summon is written in speech marks, okay? For a specific purpose, having spent hours on end looking up that demon and what it's for. And yet, you believe that demon is real because you've experienced success. Is it going to turn you on? Question mark. Truth be told here, the idea of summoning Ouroboros is very interesting. I've read he is not a deceiving demon and remains faithful to the conjurer. Hypothetically, if, in capital letters, I try to bring him about and I succeed, would I be at risk of believing he was real? Okay, you got a couple of questions there. The first one is about you've experienced success. Is it gonna like turn you on or make you happy or whatever? Depends what you mean by success. I mean, the only form of success you can get is either the thing you were doing your ritual or spell for happening, such as getting a job, for instance. Would that sort of make you think, oh, isn't that wonderful? Well, it might make you think, isn't that wonderful, because you got your job or your result or whatever it is, or apparent result, okay? But in reality, if you use your brain, you'll realize that you don't know. Okay, you don't know whether your weird heebie-jeebie stuff, burning candles and doing all your gothic weirdo stuff, is actually the cause of the result. So essentially there would have to be more questions. So would it necessarily make me think, oh yeah, it's all real? Probably not. The average occultist who can't think would probably think, oh yes, this is proof it works. I know it works, yes, because they're mental. Alright, I've, it's stupid thinking. Alright. The second bit here is, hypothetically, if I tried to bring him about and I succeeded, would I be at risk of believing he was real? So with the first question, I'm assuming you're talking about getting an apparent result, such as getting the job or, getting the car you want or whatever, And the second one, I'm assuming what you're doing is talking about an experience or a strange experience which happened during your or shortly after your ritual experience. There is a risk of believing that the thing is real. But that's a risk. Okay? If you can think, you would question. But if you're the kind of person who does not think and chooses to believe because you are a religious person, not a person who has deployed scientific thinking to personal experiences, then you are likely to believe bullshit. Okay? If you apply scientific thinking to the strange experiences, one thing you will confess to yourself is that the strange experience can happen, but you have no idea what the ramifications of that experience are in reality. So you have to question what these things actually mean and not provide answers. In ancient times, they jumped to conclusions quite severely as to what the apparent results seem to infer. These were the alchemists, and they came up with all kinds of crazy spiritual ideas as to why this chemical reaction happened or that chemical reaction happened, and so on and so forth. Now, they were quite advanced thinkers, but they didn't have the technology to be able to ascertain what it was they were actually looking at. So they therefore jumped to beliefs, and some of them would have believed much more than others. So there is a danger there because the average person who plays around with the occult is not actually all that intelligent or with the world and so on and so forth. So there has to be a middle ground of thinking, really. And you've got to be a bit more creative and critical with your experiences and to try and increase your intellectual understanding of what you have experienced to a much higher degree or level. Now we got an inquiry from Nadir6661, who's got a very curious what looks like a chaos magic type sigil with a few sort of like other forms of symbolism thrown in there. And it says here, okay, this is one man's belief, your opinion on the afterlife, if any. Again, I'd have to say to that inquiry, again, I don't know. Okay, you may experience an astral projection, you may experience sharing dreams with people, you can have all these strange things happening, but if you're the kind of person who jumps to a belief, you will develop a belief or a strong opinion on the afterlife, if there is an afterlife. Okay, which we don't know. All we have is a group of strange experiences here, there, and everywhere, and reported strange experiences and all the rest of that. And there are people who have written all kinds of stuff about it and done movies about the whole thing and fiction works and allegedly factual works and so on and so forth. But we're just going to have to just turn around and say, you know, we don't know. I mean, that is, I know, it's a typical Nick Dutch stock response to most things, but it's also the only true one. The only true one. Alright, full stop. Now, you can be a part of a spiritual path that says, like, oh, then we all go on to the summer land afterwards, or we all go on to heaven, or we all go on to have a whopping great dinner with all our dead relatives, or whatever it is. But that's a religious opinion. And therefore it's not a fact. And I'm trying to have the experiences upon which I could then, I guess, eventually try and create some kind of opinion as to, you know, what is real and true in like the apparently spiritual world. But on the other hand, I can't properly do that because, you know, we don't have enough grounds to be able to make a hard and fast statement. What we can do is we can see what religious ideas we wish to incorporate into our lives on the basis that they do us some good. And if they don't do us some good, then we have to get rid of them, stop believing in them, get rid, you know, whatever. But we also got to have a good structure of understanding as to what it is that's actually doing us some good and in what way it's actually doing us some good. Because if we miss out on that, then we'll choose something that we think is doing us some good, but that can be based upon a personal pain or a personal issue which has been holding us back as people. Alright? I mean, a lot of the things which people within various movements say is the right attitude or the right this, that, and the other is just based upon the fact that, I don't know, they were bullied when they were in school or they had something bad happen to them at some point in their life. So you can't really trust it. Alright? You know, a lot of people's beliefs that they sell in the New Age spiritual marketplace is based upon pain, really, more than anything else. So, I mean, not all of it, of course, but quite a lot of it is. Or inability to think. I mean, I'm still incredibly pissed off with the occultists I used to know, because they were people who would use the phrase such as "it works," use the phrase such as "magic is the science and art of changing conformity with the will," which is of course factually inaccurate, as I've proven in previous videos, despite the fact I've been trying to encourage people to try and deploy scientific reasoning when it comes to spiritual experiences. Because essentially that's important, because otherwise you end up thinking a lot of bullshit and talking a lot of bullshit and convincing people who are needy of a load of bullshit. Alright, and thus being dangerous and damaging to people, alright, and being evil, essentially, in my opinion, alright, just very, 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 very fucking bad. So I'm not going to encourage those views, because they are wrong and morally reprehensible in every possible way. So, you know, try and think. Don't be an asshole. And try and stay sane and intelligent. If you're struggling to stay sane and intelligent, then stop messing around with New Age spiritual, occult, religious ideas, or ideas which are political and don't do you all that much good, because you may be a bit too simple to handle this shit, as most people within these movements appear to be. That's why I shout at them so much. Alright? because they're damaging people just through opening their mouths and speaking their opinions without thinking about what those values, what those opinions, and what those ideas could be doing to people. And of course, how they're distorting people's perspective on reality. When you're making a video, when you're writing a book, whatever it is, you are affecting someone's perception of reality. And therefore, you're in an incredible position of responsibility. And if you don't accept that responsibility properly, then you're being a very dangerous, unpleasant, uncouth, undesirable individual.